with the system, and I'll come back to this. Leave you all, save some. Loosely, before she puts, because we're going to have to go over this again when she puts the tape on. Sister Angie, you not work that camera in? You gotta fix this, clock that clock out, and try and go.
Where's my buddy at? They couldn't make it.
That's why I asked you if you want to.
No, I don't want to do something before.
See there?
Don't you start it.
See there? You need to put the whammy on
You
you.
working the roots.
A root woman.
Everybody know what that is?
No.
My hair goes, so don't say because I know it is. Right?
Need a book.
What is this sometimes called? In layman's terms.
Foot. Small something or other.
Small version of the
In layman's terms, or in dogmatic terms. In layman's terms and dogmatic terms is referred to Adam and Eve, and is also referred to tetragrammaton, or the capacity to realize tetragrammaton, or the self, the higher self, the spirit. Unlike, like say for instance, you have a seed, right? A seed is what you would call indefinite, whereas a tree is definite. And so a tree promises, a seed promises or has the potential to manifest what the tree is that produced it, and that is understood, yet it is not seen nor tangible. But it is understood. And so that's a way that you can look at what is referred to loosely as a spiritual level and the physical level, in a sense. Because altogether it can't totally be expressed. So whereas you say it in words, that's a way to say it. But keep in mind also that the systems or the philosophies by which this is comprehended are complex. And this would be Kabbalistic, or the levels where the priesthood learn. Do you understand? But yet for everybody, but yet not taught to everyone. All right. So that's just a nuance I wanted to throw up there, and not necessarily get in it because you need a lot of other information to really comprehend it. But it's important for you to be familiar with it. This is by necessity of, how would you say, slaying the dragon of belief systems to steer people closer to what the truth is. Because within those belief dogma systems, they're enslaved. It was giving you something to go with. You know what I mean? Because much of that is study that you're going to have to do on your own. However, again, this is back to also having a foundation knowledge of the Hebrew or the Hebrew alphabet, in order to understand the foundation of the principles of the higher self and the lower self, or what people are calling religion. You know what I mean? Distinguished from dogma, which is generally given to the masses. All right, this is just giving you something so you can go do something on your own. Give you an idea, because some things that we might mention may be in these realms without necessarily explaining it, so that you'll be familiar, so you have a reference point, so that when you go home and do your homework, you can do some research and free yourself a little bit. All right? And keep in mind, this is very important. And we went through this before, but it's important to keep these concepts in mind. Now, keep in mind, this represents, because all of your letters have what you would call numerical values, all right? Now, keep in mind also, when you get into the science of this, that expressively, when you refine it to its most refined level, the whole thing is feminine. Do you understand? But for comprehending it in the physical plane, we give it the duality. But yet, all of this expression can only come through here. You know, as an example, 1 divided in itself can only equal 1. 1 multiplied by itself can only equal 1. Therefore, the expression or the reflection is necessary. So it's expressed through Beth, or the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And keep in mind, Beth in the second letter of the alphabet symbolizes house. You see? And this is where you get the term that's where that is derived from. Do you understand? And I'm just throwing these keys at you so that you can have a different view of what you've been told religion is. Are we clear? And it doesn't matter what religion it is. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you're looking at Islam, Yahudi, what you call Judaism, which is usually associated with this, but this is not. People usually associate Judaism with this, but understand Judaism is just a form of adopting this, which is universal. Are we clear? And usually by which it is expressed to the masses. However, that's Islam and what you would call Orthodox Christianity and Buddhism and Confucianism too.
So, that's the Hebrew.
That's what you call Hebrew.
Okay, because in Arabic, it's Aleph, Ba, Tha.
Yeah.
They separate the Beth. It's Aleph, Ba, Tha.
And, or yes, or connected to,
It's like it make,
or bound with.
yeah, they don't make it, it's two
Yes.
different, yeah.
Yeah, that means bound with,
Okay,
combined.
yeah.
All right? Same thing, but it must be, and I'm throwing this because if this is comprehended, one is not confused with, can still be confused, but is not confused with the doctrines that they give you in religion. knowing that they have a kabbalistic background. Do you understand? And that their personalities or personifications are given mainly for children, and including the story forms. Do you understand? Not to be rejected, but to be accepted for what they actually are, not what they're assumed to be. You know, like real people necessarily, though some may be real people, some may not be. But they're expressions actually of your evolution from the seed of the expression of the creative forces into the manifest, and also with a reflection of that which made you. Do you understand? Or having a look at that which made you really is what it's for. And so you have to come to at least the number 2. And of course, we're going into the science from 0 to 9, but we're not going up there, we're just keeping it simple. In order for you to even multiply. So to even be fruitful, to multiply, to have expression, that's why it always says, and the air or the Father breathed on the waters. Of course, the waters is the womb, you know, and created a child, and therefore it's expressed through Beth, and this is why everything is expressed through the woman, or she's like the stargate. Yet, she herself actually even produces the son, which is first a female anyway. And so Father is actually the process of creation and not necessarily the being. And so we as males are the expression of part of the process of reproduction. You know, whereas we may look at it as absolute gender, and that's not exactly true. So the male is really the mother pushing herself out on what you would call positive for the expansion of expression, to come back, to pull back in, to expand the comprehension and understanding or experience. So essentially, the masculine principle is a degenerated expression of the feminine. That's why it cannot multiply. And it can't divide. And even when the cells divide, it's called what? A daughter cell, isn't it? Even in agriculture, when leaves pop up, first thing you see, when the seed opens up and begins to express its origin, it has 2 leaves, and they're called daughter leaves.
So that explains that the woman only has the mitochondrial gene.
That's why she's an X and we're a Y. And so when you're dealing with biology or gene, you know, what they call genesis, gene structure, it's always must be expressed through the woman. You have to study the woman. But that's important to understand so you can understand the politics as to why the papacy removed the feminine principle from religion in order to conquer the world. So the feminine principle is only expressed under a masculine form, and there you get the papacy, or what you call the bishoprics or the fatherhood, and this is how they put the world in darkness. Knowingly, not accidentally, not a mistranslation, not misunderstanding, not understanding the old scripts. No, all that stuff is fraud. It's done deliberately. Do you understand? And because the masses of the world are under the influence of the papacy, which is why we're in trouble. Because they've essentially set themselves up as gods while they point to other images. It's really them that the people are worshiping and paying. And so that's expressed through all your taxes, the way they run government, the way they undermine government, etc. And so you're dealing with the abstract and then the tangible. You see the point? And so a lot of our expressions, or a lot of things that we may analyze socially and politically, understand, have a religious root. Dealing with divine law, even though that may not be spoken. So just because we may be dealing with something on a civic level, don't get confused and think that we're not dealing with what you refer to as spirituality. But you have to know this in order to beat them, because they're using it. It's just that they're hiding it from you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And when they present things to you, they're only presenting to you with this. And so when you go into government structure and the way you do things, in the way that you look at scriptures, the way you look at literature in general, the way you analyze language, the way you go into the morphology and the etymology of language, without keeping this in mind, you're bound to make flaws. So when you're looking at, now English for the most part, which is really Anglish, which is a universal language for really commercial activity, if you understand. It's not Europeans, it's ours in general. It's the world's language, it's a universal language. So don't think it belongs to you, because their language is Gaelic. You understand? And so English is more or less what you call Arabic, Aramaic, Persic, Hebrew, Latin, and a little bit of Germanic mixed. And the Germanic, etc., and those forms come from the Semitic, or Semitic and what you call Sanskrit. Still, it has Asiatic origin. So when you're doing traces through your etymological analysis, when you're looking at any documents or words or communications that you may have with them, keep that in mind all the time, that one of the tricks that they always do is when they do transliterations and translations, they consciously remove the feminine principle from the language, which would absolutely make the dispensations incorrect. That's what makes the Bible wrong. Are we clear? Yet the Bible is not wrong. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes.
If you interject this principle back into the Bible, the Torah, Tanakh, Pentateuch, etc., and read it with this consciousness, then you'll have a better understanding of it.
What do you mean? Like, we read it like when you have like the father replacing with like the mother, or like what do you mean?
It's really mother.
Well,
Or I'll give you let's make it simple.
okay.
For the average person who's influenced by the priesthood, they'll say Jesus, the Son of God, right? Right? And they'll give you an image with Jesus sitting on Mary's knee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the mind of the people keep thinking about this Father that ain't even in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
But yet Jesus, the Son of God, they're showing you who the God is, and that's his mom. But she's always silent.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mind, the way they teach it, you're imagining in your mind this other being somewhere who's a male father, when actually it's really talking about her. Do you understand?
Yes.
But through translation and transliteration, truth is lost and deliberately not told, because they can't have the power if they don't eliminate this. Because this is one of the tricks that the priesthood use in order for world conquest. I'm only telling you this because it's important for you to recognize, to have this as a background, not that this is subject for tonight, as a background with this information that you're given and also with the fight that you're given. You must understand that the frame of the mind of the masters who are messing with your head. Also with those who are properly fighting them. You understand? In other words, the dragon and the dragon slayer both got this knowledge. You know, and so if you're coming along in the battle trying to upset the apple cart of the dragon and not aware of this, you have a tendency to fall victim to some of their areas when they're writing to you or they're creating instruments for you, and you forget this rule. It's not good, brother.
So you're saying that the dragon was fighting against the lady.
Say it again.
The dragon was fighting against the lady.
The woman.
The woman.
See, this is what it is. Really, when it really boils down, it is
She was more
the mother of the
than-
lesser light. It really is the mother of the lesser light
Right,
who is really battling the woman of the light.
right.
Say that again.
It is actually the woman of the lesser light, or the hybrid, or the hybrid,
Okay.
who is battling the woman of the light.
Okay.
Translation, it is man under attack by mankind. Mankind is the hybrid. Man is the original.
Or children of the lesser God.
Yes, and so in another expression that would be called improperly, but so the average person can understand it, God and the daemon. Or the demon. And all demon means one of the lesser light. It doesn't mean good and evil in the kind of way that people are told. And so it's important to understand that so that you don't develop hatred in your mind or your heart while you're dealing with these matters, that you deal with them after that, so that you can stay pure. Because ultimately through the battle you got to try to stay pure as you can, even though the tendency is to be get into anger that would make you sick. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So it's important to really know what you're dealing with in order for you to kind of battle even with yourself, to keep yourself what is called equilibrium, kind of balanced. You know, and this is again where the symbol of the cross comes in, not the way they've been telling you. Islam.
Sis, the mother was more powerful than anything.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Yet politically and artificially, she's subdued. Do you understand? By the popes of Rome, this is symbolized when you see some of those badges, Masonic badges, where you see the Sphinx head and the Moorish sword, the Moorish sword above the head of the Sphinx, which means the subjugation of the Moabite woman. You understand? The Moabite woman is the woman, or what you would call, the closest thing that you would call to God, period. Or what is known in the ancient world as Alim, Elohim, Allah, etc. Eloah. See, Eloah is the feminine principle. Im is the masculine principle that's added to it. So Elohim, that the people know as God, is really mother, father.
Right.
Do you understand? Yet is expressed by the priesthood only as a masculine entity, which is a fraud. Now you understand why the popes don't have women.
Thank you.
Now you understand why they refer to themselves as vicar, the substitute, because they daggone is only a substitute. However, they rule the world because the people have bought into their presentments as being legitimate. Do you understand? And the point that I'm making to you, because it's important for us to be battling these battles with the Europeans who are waging what you call genocide via economic warfare and other subtleties of shooting situations, that it's important for us to get back in harmony with nature in order to have the capacity to slay that dragon. So we cannot be ourselves live in the lie and then beat the lie.
No, excuse me. You said demon means Lord God.
D-A-E-M-O-N, like they said demon or daemon.
Okay.
It really means God of the lesser light. So the demon is still a God, isn't it? It's still something that was what? Invoked, called upon, or poured out, which is what the word God means. God does not mean the name of the supreme being. God means to invoke, to call upon, and to pour out. Fact is, anything that is invoked, poured out, or called upon can only come through the womb.
That's right.
This is another reason why it's important for these fundamentals to be comprehended so that women who have been influenced by the priesthood, you know, can come out of the dark. Because if they're in the dark, her sons are definitely going to be in the dark. You know, now, one of the safety nets that the priesthood set up to protect themselves in their corruption is to convince us as sons that we're stronger than mother. And in doing so, we have expectations of ourselves, and they have expectations of us that we cannot produce. However, our belief systems lock us in that position, and that makes us easy feedings for the vampires.
Because you're off the key string.
That's why we gotta bring equilibrium back.
Right.
And the way you do that is telling the truth. Do you understand? And see, so, you know and I know that the majority of people, when they say Allah, they're thinking about a male. Yet Allah is a feminine principle. And even though Elohim is mother, father, they still look at that as a masculine principle. But its major force, even though there's an equilibrium to be brought in, its major force still is feminine. Alim, still feminine. This is why, for instance, like when you do research, etc., and you go into what you call ancient religions, you will always go into what female deities. And of course, the word deity actually comes from deity, which is really the ancient name of the planet Mercury, which was a communication center for us throughout this particular solar system. It has nothing to do with a being, it has to do with a planet. That is essentially a communication center. You know, but our mind doesn't operate because that's not the way the history was presented to us. And so we don't think in the concept of, you know, just like for instance, you're looking at the equipment there, up there, say Sister Nyla's in here, or like if Angie was running the machines, that would be the communication center. Well, that's what Mercury played in this particular solar system, not that the other planets, major planets, didn't have communication centers. That was the major center for communications in this particular solar system because we didn't always just reside here on this planet. You know, and so the concepts of the technology and the degrees where we were on in our light packages and other levels was lost, you know, meaning that we actually regressed, we fell backwards, if you get the point what I'm saying. Our perceptions of how we look at our own selves and our real ancient history has to do with what are presented as certain God forms today that are more fictitious than real, but are more expressions of us trying to recoup or retrace ourselves to where we left off, like before the great earthquakes, you know, and before, say, a couple of the sessions of Nibiru came through, or something like that, where certain information is lost, and then we have to start all over again and recoup. And so a lot of these sigils are really little pieces of information that were set up and given personality in order for us to try to find ourselves again. Now, because Mercury is a communication center, and because the communications were that's like a central point or hub where the communications were made with all the rest of the lords or the rulers of the major planets in this particular solar system. This is even before anything going outside of this particular cycle or solar system. Because of that communication system, Daoiti, or the name Daoiti, is usually associated with all of the major planets. However, there's only one deity, and that's Mercury. And so this is where people get the idea of, you know, that deity means a god, and all the deities, you know, like that mentality, but it's not really true. It's generally loosely associated with the other rulers, and so they're called deities, but there's really only one deity, and that's Mercury. And that's just information for you so that you can look at the Bible, the Torah, Quran, the WASPI, the Vedas, and all the other books more properly, because the assignment of personalities to forces and powers have brought the world into looking at physical beings, and mostly males, in their perceptions of the powers of the universe, which is totally incorrect. And in doing so, it makes them absent of the capacity to exercise the powers. So in order to exercise the powers, as you might say, of God, it's kind of low, really, because it's really above that. It's got to be balanced. And if you go into anything without that balance, your concepts will be absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Thoroughly incorrect. However, since the world is operating there, this is what makes it safe for the high priest to rape you. Do you understand? And in order to give the appearance of harmony with those perspectives or those perspectives, they created the artificial devil, which they take life to live, and that which lived and reverses it. Lived is devil, and life is evil. So they just take the same principle that operates in the tetragrammaton, where everything is based in reflections, which takes this stuff into complexities. It is the same principle of that falsehood is a reflection of truth.
The yin and yang?
Yes. You understand? And I'm just telling you some of those things so that you can understand how these people are thinking when they're dealing with you without talking to you. And so that you can start matching swords with them. Don't go in the boxing ring with one hand behind your back and wonder why you keep losing. You understand? So while you know that the world is spooked up, you don't argue with them because you know they lack information. But don't go dealing out there in your own mind when you're saying Allah and Elohim, thinking masculine, think feminine.
Right.
You don't have to think that way, and it'll stimulate your chakras.
Wow.
Because reason why a lot of the chakras don't activate is because we're off balance. And then other people are trying to sell you some systems by activating the chakras, when really all you gotta do is be back in harmony with nature. That's absolutely does it automatically. It's no big thing. You don't need you gotta do like this and put a, chocolate bowl this, you gotta do like this. But they make you think you gotta go through a whole bunch of this is the seriousness.
Right.
Well, breathing is good, but I'm just telling you. Because all that is true takes place in the course of nature without your insistence. Except when you bought into the dogma, you shut down your own pineal gland.
Okay.
Which is the pine cone. Do you understand? Which is the eye. Right? So that eye is shaped like the pineal gland in the middle of the brain. You see? And so keep in mind that that the activities or the rituals, numbers, ritual, mathematics, ritual means numbers, that we go through are what you would call symbolic expressions of the math of the Kabbalah. You see? But then it can go into infinitum or infinitum, so people, to comfort themselves, try to keep it simple. But in keeping it simple, sometimes we lose comprehension of what we're doing, if you get the point what I'm saying to you. And this is also why, essentially, when you want to deal with meeting the higher self or having a comprehension of the higher self, through the philosophies, you learn about the three chambers of the head, stuff like that. Or like the rituals, like say when like Muslims, they prostrate themselves, burning the forehead, signifying the activation of the thalamus on 7. Or in the church when they say anointed my head with oil, stimulating the pineal glands. It's really symbolic. All that only means that. You know what I mean? Or the Christ degree, or Resh, Resh, or the stem, Ibri, the stem activation of the medulla, etc. And then the activation of the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, which are spiritual glands, because we are organic mechanical transceivers. We project and receive, right? And the art of breathing, which is what spirituality is the art of stimulating them, or smacking them around a little bit. Like they're a little stagnant, they're sitting in the corner, you ain't been using them, so you go in there, knock the dust off, and they go, what? That's all it is. All right, so spirituality is breathing, the art of breathing, right? All right, so everybody, let's Put your feet close together, your knees close together. And put your books to the side. And lay your hands palm up on your knees. Right? And you maintain, this is one of the meditative states. And keep in mind that prayer, meditation, and contemplations are relative. Are we clear?
Yes.
They're degrees of the same thing. Prayer being the lowest degree. And that's the lowest degree that's given to the masses, and the reason they're usually never taken above that because the priesthood can't live off of them if they teach them higher. Are we clear?
Yes.
Meditation is the next degree up. Are we clear?
Yes.
Contemplation is the highest degree. The priesthood contemplate. They only pray in front of the masses to keep you praying. So they can shear you while you're, you know, you get the sheep in, get them all comfortable, then you shear them, and then you wonder, hey, it's kind of chilly outside. And the priest up there, yes. And he's got this smock on, they took all the wool. You know. See, nobody told, you know, the sheep herders and everything, and the sheep is under the comfort of the shepherd. Boy, he never told him he was a carnivore. You know, so, you know, let's get real. So you concentrate, right? Concentrate, contemplate, right? And you stand quiet for a while, right? And you try to concentrate and move all thoughts from your head. It's hard to do sometimes, but after a while you get used to it. And after a while you do it naturally, and you can even do it when you're busy, just like any other exercise, right? Then breathe in, on the count of 3, breathe in real strongly and fill your lungs and your stomach as much as you can. And you're going to hold it, and we're going to count first to 5, all right? All right, 1, 2, 3. Breathe in as much as you can. Hold it. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now push it out. Push it all of it out. All of it out. Push it all out. Now hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull it in again. As much as you can. Almost stretching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push it out. Calm yourselves, and then we're going to pull it in again, and you're going to hold it to 9. Pull it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Push it out. Now your heart should be racing a little bit now, which will be circulating air to your organs, livening them a little bit. Now, take your right finger, front finger, and hold your right nostril. Pull it in fully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. Same thing, keep that finger on that nose. Now reverse it. Put it on the left nostril. Pull it in. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push it out. all of it out. Now, hold both nostrils. Pull it in your mouth. One, two, three, 4, 5. Release it. Push it all out. All right, breathe in deep. Let it out. Push it all out. Breathe in deep. Hold it. Push it all out. Breathe in deep. Hold it. Push it all out. That's a short one. All right. Now, start doing that yourself. That's a short exercise. You can extend it, but it's short just for start stimulating your pineal gland, pituitary gland, and medulla, and you're ready for studying. And you do that before you study. You can do it when you get up in the morning. Do it before you go to a rest. All right, as a routine. Then you contemplate, and do that particularly when you're in serious study. And also you do that also to relieve pressure. Like when you're stressed, also do that because it'll calm you down. And also what it does, it gets a lot of the toxic air that's settled in your lungs and your stomach that you don't push all the way out, because we never breathe right anyway. You know, not because we can't, it's because the lifestyle we live and the way we've not been trained, you know, to breathe. All right. So use that when you feel like it. You know, teach it to your families. And that's elementary. We can go into some more, little deeper stuff later or some other time. But just as a standard, that works. You know what I mean? And so I always say keep it simple if you can. You know, so that works. So do that for yourself, do it for your families, do it for your babies when they come home for doing work and stuff like that, doing homework and work that you give them, etc. Take them through the exercises and let them get in that habit. And the other deal is every once in a while, when you want to in the morning, you know, take your shoes off, go stand on the earth and do it. That's so that the current is in you, that the earth's current is in you. All right? Anyway, so keep this in mind all times. All right? Some of the things we were talking about earlier, you all notice that many of the Europeans, out of frustration, want to secede from the nation, about 30 different corporate states.
Yes.
Right? Now, let's talk about some fundamental political facts. And it's important for us to be aware of these things because they're going to affect you one way or another, so that you have to be prepared to deal with this stuff too. Now, this particular corporate entity here is referred to as what?
United States.
State of what?
Oh,
Delaware.
All right. Now, as you all know, there's about 30 states that are seeking to secede. Many of the Europeans said that if Obama got elected, that they would secede. And of course, they're buying a whole bunch of weapons and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And so they're opting to secede from the nation. Now, from a legal and lawful perspective, can that be done with this entity and other entities like that?
No.
Why?
Because it's a corporation, it's not a republic.
Well, yes, yes. Now, with the republic, sovereignty resides. sovereignty resided with republic. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, what? As a requirement for any state in the Union, acknowledged that point. Yet in 1933, essentially really in 1913 with Woodrow Wilson, but affirmatively, or affirmed for the record in 1933 with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when they became the states of, distinguishing themselves from the Republic for the purpose of institutionalizing servitude of the 14th Amendment for other persons, us, who they held to servitude under straws, etc., they lost their birthright.
Right.
And being the state of Delaware, is it a republic?
No.
It is what? A branch franchise of the 10-mile district of Washington, D.C.
That's right. District of Columbia Corporation.
Yeah. Can they secede?
No.
It's like you deciding to sue yourself because you ain't got you discovered your beanie ain't beaver. And so I'm suing myself. And subtleties, and the reason I'm pointing this out is because these things are hitting the fan strong and heavy now. And because they're affecting us all, and so you want to be aware of it, don't make assumptions or don't allow people to present arguments to you that actually have no ground,
Right.
although it may appear legitimate. And this is back where principle, and I'll show you, and keep this in mind, with this recognized nature of divine law, right? The principle transferred into government is allodial, you see?
Right.
Whereas this is feudal. You see? And so when they violated the divine laws of the Constitution, all legitimate right of claim or any sovereign powers, granted or otherwise, are dead.
Yes.
And so everything they did under this only did one thing, accumulate debt for them.
Exactly.
And yet their concept is that they're screwing us. And the only way you get screwed is if you agree to be a party to that under that 14th Amendment.
Right.
With the Negro minion preachers who work for the popes of Rome who've been perpetrating this fraud over here. Which is the role they play in the priesthood degree, as expressed in Article 3 of the secret Treaty of Verona. I mean, I'm just tying those things together so that you can look at them. You understand what I'm saying to you? And keep in mind, though these things aren't necessarily talked about in conversation, when they're dealing with you in all economics and politics, that's already the canvas of their thought. Just like the ABCs are the canvas of your thought while you're dealing with, you're not sitting around thinking ABC when you're writing, but it's the canvas of your thought. 0 to 9 is the canvas of your thought. Meaning that after you study, and it becomes automated in you. And so your dispensations bounce off of that foundation. Likewise, their dispensations bounce off the secret Treaty of Verona.
Excuse me, is that Article 3, Treaty of Verona?
Article 3 of the Treaty of Verona is the degree that your priesthood, your clergy, these Negro clergies around here, every 4 blocks you got one of them houses, outposts of Constantine, spy centers, are operating off that Article 3. That's why they have no conscience taking the widow's pennies and having these $3,000 suits with the parents behind, and then the people think they love Jesus, God, and Allah, and all this other stuff, and they're ameliorating their own purposes.
They also take the Jesuits' oath, right?
Yeah, that's what the 501c3 is.
That's what that is.
Yeah, under Johnson, have they got rid of Kennedy for trying to bring the gold standard back in? Mhm. So I'm expressing what you already know, but I'm taking what you would call, though it's not exactly like that, the spirituality into the politics, showing you its balance and its imbalance. But again, you must comprehend in your own mind that when magi are dealing with you, when the magistrates are dealing with you, that understand that they're magi. Do you understand? They're high priests. Do you understand?
Yes.
And I'm telling you that so that you don't start thinking in your head that the preacher on the corner and the fake judge, administrator, who's faking as a judge, personating judgeship, that they're necessarily different.
And
They're partners to an order.
the administrators, which people think they're judges, they're really administrators, they're administrating the bankruptcy of the United States. Right?
Yes, but let's go beyond that. They're administrating the fulfillment, or what is called delivery, of the nations to the popes of Rome. You know, so I'm only saying that what you already know, going to actually the foundation as opposed to a surface argument that's totally legitimate. However, most people don't know to look below the next blanket. You know what I mean? And so they're they're fulfilling their oath to the popes of Rome. So that is to understand that the hiding of this, not accidental, that's part of the priesthood debt to the popes of Rome to aid them to rule the world. Are we clear?
Yeah.
So in order to defeat their dragon, you must clear your head and balance that brain off again. Yours, because they live in your head.
Right.
Which is what the dogma is for. You understand? So the baptism is really symbolic of you purging the BS Dorf and going back to that state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers. And so not only does it change the aura around you, you understand, it all actually stimulates the Christ degree, or what you call that fire in the head, which is what religion exists for in the first place. You know, that little spark, that monad spark. You understand? In other words, that little nuclear thing that they don't want you to know you have, it stimulates that because it takes work. And it stimulates that and fires it up. And it changes stuff. And understand, vampires can't live in the light. You know, so the point of it is, even though you're using what you would call legal process measures to try to retain some of our unalienable and divine substantive rights, understand state of mind is superior in its reflection on all that you do in order to turn that 15-watt bulb into a 100-watt bulb without you necessarily going anywhere. And yet you're the same being, but yet the energy that you emit when you're around them starts causing damage. And the more you can get wake, the more you can defeat that dragon. Sometimes without even saying anything. You know, and so it's not only, so I'm only saying that because I know that a lot of times when we start collecting data, and you already know as you travel, people get information, they start collecting data, and they think more data you get, the more degrees you get, the more in the light you are, when a lot of it is based on sincerity and purity of intention that activates the chakras. Truthfully. And the other interesting thing is that the chakras don't necessarily activate in a sequence for everybody. So that concept, you know, from the coccyx bone to the crown chakra, you know, is not necessarily true that way. Do you understand? You know, like we say 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't necessarily always work that way. Some may open up quicker than the others, sometimes above. And so you got to be conscious so that you don't burn yourself, that's all. Or so you don't, get off balance in climbing. That's why a lot of times the information is deliberately given in degrees so that you can protect yourself from yourself. Don't go out to lunch type thing.
Yeah, speak earlier, people were saying to me, they were saying, are you a law master? And I was explaining to them, law master ain't what they're talking about as far as law is mastering oneself.
Yes, I self-law and master.
Right.
Because it's Islam, but it's the acronym and not the rituals.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is why that all your rulers got Korans, but they're not looking at them like the masses look at them. You know, they're not walking them pages the way the masses are walking them pages. So when Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Ben Franklin, that they call founding fathers, you know, dealing with their Korans, they're going from Kabbalistic degrees. They're not coming from, that perspective they have. You would never know. On the surface, they're Christians. In secret, they're Muslims. And Yahudi, or what you call Jew, because they know their degrees. The masses look at them as different religions because they don't know that they all go together. But again, and with this consciousness, this is why you see Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, all of them condemned the church. Do you understand? Why? Because they know what the priesthood did in order to put the world in darkness. This is why they agreed with the Moors to establish the United States of America as a beacon light. You see? Then you understand the Great Seal and the bird. Then you understand the Moorish flag and the trading banner. Then you understand why lately Obama and his wife conveniently get a lot of their recent pictures snapped with the Moorish flag in the background. Or when Hillary was speaking for peace relative to these embassies that they're having this problem, she has 3 Moorish flags behind her. It's not accidental. Do you understand? But they're signals. Do you understand? Because they're trying to save themselves. Because that's over. And then the Europeans talking about, we want to secede. No, they're not. They think they is. Islam. Nick with you? Any?
Yeah, he's with me.
Islam, brothers and sisters, RossandRideVFaithPublications.com. You so sweet. She always doing stuff. She be hooking her brother up, bro. Yeah, it's that thing from the Southern law. You only have a few like we usually, right?
What? The pictures?
Yeah. I'll make sure the sisters have them first.
It's about 20 or so of them. I kind of just didn't check it out. Guess what, Lord? What do you think of that?
Islam.
Sister's group.
Then we can share it with the brothers.
Paul. I'm on class. Larry. No, but listen, guess what news we found out today? Nick, you want to tell me? Remember when we told you that all corporations, municipalities, police departments, they're all bankrupt, they're not really real government anyway? Right. So across the nation, some of them been firing their policemen, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some been firing, you know, like they'll fire a few or whatever. Have you ever seen one that just, like, damn, just like, no more? Gave the pink slips today, half of them, 40 cops. Pink slips, half of them today, 16. And the other half got the pink slips for January. And the entire town, the entire municipality, the whole thing is done.
Where?
This is down the Gallery, down our way.
I'm gonna make sure y'all.
Where's our way?
No, yeah, so check it out. In North Carolina, we all know that the officers were warned to put their stuff in, because that's on the site, that was big news, into someone else's name, because they were gonna get sued by the people. So don't think that the reason why they're there following is the one we were talking about today. It is because people like yourself and others have been going into, number one, going into the courtroom and not walking out paying anything. They're challenging them. So that means that for that day, when they do their reports on finances, they didn't get what they usually get. Then at the end of the week, they didn't get what they usually get. Then at the end of the month, they didn't get what they usually get. Then at the end of the quarter, 3 months, they don't get what they usually get. So they eventually they were going to, they're losing. Now, that was just occurred just because of challenging. Now people know to put a lien on their bond. And down there, someone did sue them. And if you put a lien on their bond, they collapse anyway. So that's probably what really happened, because all of them are not even supposed to be doing what they do, because if they were government, if they were really operating proper, they number one wouldn't be violating the people's rights, their racketeering. And if they were operating proper, they wouldn't be sued. Everything would be everything, right? So it started, destruction starts in the South, right?
Exactly.
North Carolina, the people in North Carolina was like, in Atlanta, they just really hit them hard. Oh, and if you got on the site, you put a lot of new stuff up there, you see the report that says sovereign citizens cleared of stealing foreclosed properties. Did you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, now, did you notice who the sovereign citizens were?
Yes.
Did you see them?
Yes.
So the question about who's the sovereign is over, right?
Exactly.
Because they weren't going to print that. Now, these things are subtle. The picture that I just gave you with Barack Obama and Michelle going into an affair with the Moroccan flag.
Right.
It doesn't matter where they were. The fact that that picture is being slowly leaked out, as well as the one with Hillary, is a message to all Moors.
Exactly.
So what that means is that, as it has been prophesied, it's coming back into the hands of the Moors. Now, there's some of us who didn't know that, didn't believe it, therefore can't know it, because if you don't believe it first, you can't know it, and then you can't work it, because you got to work what you know. You have to have faith in what you know, not in what you see. So you got to get past belief to knowing, and then you can manifest.
Right.
So there's some of us that haven't done that yet, and so now they're either really searching for information, which means they have to not just study, but they have triple time study. Because you got to catch up. Because this is coming back into your hand. Now, I'll just say this last thing. The biggest thing, I was just talking on the phone with Sister Ernie, and we talk about this all the time. The biggest problem that we have had, the biggest issue, I think, is in our mind from our training. We actually think that the European actually owns or is the authority, owns anything here or is the authority here. They are not.
Right.
They have a They have a derived authority called the Constitution, of which they are trustees and public officials, and that is the law, and they are violating it. And that trust is your land and your resources. The Moors, who know they're not Negro, colored, and black, those, because you can't claim it if you're Negro, colored, and black. And you don't really have to claim it, you just declare it to yourself and it's already there. It's not something you have to go claim and get back from somebody that never left you. The consciousness and knowledge left us, and even though it was intended, that it stopped it, well, you know, they did that on purpose. Doesn't matter. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. It goes both ways. Once you know better, you do better. So the biggest thing I think, and I think Taj agrees, is that the people are under the mindset that these Europeans actually own. Like they'll say, well, that's their law. Here's a help. You'll say, well, that's their law. Well, guess what? They don't have any law.
They're lawless.
No, I mean, they don't have any law at all. The law is your law.
Yeah, they've been operating under, when you say their law, and don't say color law, the statement is incorrect.
That's right.
What you say is that they're exercising de facto or color of law and color of authority. That's what distinguishes them. So
that means when we say their law, we're in error.
This is, yes. So this is their, if you want to say their law, this is what you're saying. Right? If you're saying the law, jurisprudence, positive law, you're talking this.
Their legality.
Yeah.
They do.
Allodial. See, because allodial is also related to allodium. You see? And that deals with what?
Property.
Land, estate. You see?
To me, the government gives it to them.
Now, remember, government, they ain't really the government. The issue is, your government, you've been undermined.
Right,
They're imposters.
right.
They've been pretending to be the government, and they've been operating or moving instruments against your estate. And have taken the E off and made them into states. State corporations. You understand?
So what, is it safe to say that instead of the gold, they replace the gold with the land?
No, don't get that confused. When you're talking the gold and silver, you're still talking the land. That's your resources. See, the gold, the silver, and the commerce belong to the citizens and the citizens alone. But the natural citizens, you see? Now the problem, the distinction, and this is redundant, but it's important for us to keep this concept in mind, that in their dealings with you, and when anybody is making any argument that sounds like what is called sovereign right of land and resources, the European is impersonating being American, and has for the most part not gone challenged. Are we clear?
Yes.
The European occupationers are posing as white men and have for the most part not gone challenged, and nevertheless have been supported by us agreeing that that's who they are, which gives them right of claim, even though it's flawed, by virtue of our status being flawed. Do you understand? So as long as the heirs of the estate demonstrate that they are what you would call not competent, or you got smoke pork in the brain, some type thing. As an heir, you're incompetent to run the estate, which in its nature, by default, kind of gives them what you would call mandate continued by default in matters of your estate. Particularly when you, or if you are transacting business in their names, which exemplifies it from a legal perspective, giving them the capacity to exercise authority over your estate. And then, if they've successfully gotten their minions to convince you to be a minority, then that means regardless of age, you're incapable of receiving your estate, which keeps you in a wardship status. Right? Thus, them still controlling your estate. You know, so these little subtleties are simply legal processes and trickery that they use, which is why you really must have a good canvas background of the real politics so that you don't fall unconsciously victim to perceived words in conversation without challenging them. Because you can be making a lawful and grounded argument and then interject a relationship to your status that's neutral and neutralize your whole argument. It's like somebody can come into court making a totally legitimate argument from a law perspective and from a moral and ethical perspective, but going to court as Smith, Jones, and Johnson and the case is dead.
Right.
Not unlike Dred Scott. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yes. So it goes in the court, the moral argument was correct. The fundamentals of the law argument was correct. His status was dead though.
He was a plaintiff in error. Right?
Plaintiff in error. That's why he's a plaintiff in error. Why? His game was Dred Scott. And he wasn't flying his colors. You see? Because number one, he couldn't be a U.S. citizen, right?
Right.
And remember, this is the rule. You can't invoke the Constitution unless you're a party to it. You see? You can't invoke it for your protections unless you're a party to it. So who's party to the Constitution?
Us, the people. The Moors.
European males and the Moors who set this government up.
Right.
So in order to neutralize the situation, in 1954, President Eisenhower suspended consular courts, which removed the venue for us.
Right.
However, that removal of venue is essentially a release of their claim of jurisdiction in Morocco. But instead, they got their Negro preachers marching around and convincing our people that they was people of color.
Right.
Under the 14th Amendment, as citizens, when they could only be property.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
And therefore, administering our people under the 14th Amendment as property instead of human beings in violation of international law. You know, so that allowed them to maintain the human trafficking because our people agreed to be Negroes, blacks, and colors. So they weren't violating international law because no such people exist. You see? And so since we agreed to that and didn't challenge that, therefore we did not, claim the right or sovereign right as Moors. Because Britain, the United States released their claim of jurisdictional authority over Morocco. So the Moors on the kingdom side recognized it, and the Moors on the empire side still talking about their black. Which gave them mandate.
No, what year was that?
That was 54 when Eisenhower suspended consular courts. You see? Well, this is another reason why we did this issue just recently. And Ida, she reviewed that with you again?
Which?
They were corrected? The reading statement of consular.
Oh, consular? Yeah, well, I don't have that with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The corrections
yeah,
that we discussed. All right.
yeah, we did.
So we issued a writ and making it public for the reinstitution of consular courts. You see? And so this is another one of the arguments that you're going to be making when you're dealing with them and you're dealing with any matters with them. You know, because without the proper venue, the real deal, they don't have any jurisdiction anyway. Right. But since they're imposing what you're supposed to do by quo warranto is not only challenge their delegation of authority over their charters and their licenses, etc., invoke consular principle, diversity, Article 3, Section 2 anyway. You know, being Moorish American, your authority and your right to do it anyway. And then, of course, with diversity, there's two things of what you call circumstantial complexity that comes into play, is the fact that they really have no offices, because they've been transferred to the IMF since 1933. They're an imposter government. So when you start exercising your rights by law and treaty, the Constitution and the treaty is you. They're outside. They're outside now. Do you do? Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's banging. It's banging.
love
And it's really, and so what they're operating on what you call, the momentum of laurels, and they stand, as things stand or appear to stand, they're operating on that, but it's a total farce.
Right.
They're operating by virtue of the fact that they're sitting in the seats, and our people, for lack of study and a lack of activity, are not on a large scale qualified to sit in their own seat. Yet that seat in the East is yours. Do you understand?
Yes.
Therefore, you got to know the real politics, because you got to really be qualified, because you got to run the world. Therefore, belief systems and dogma got to go out the window, because you got to deal with real knowledge now. Because you're being destroyed for lack of that knowledge. And so if you really don't understand what's really going on, there's no need to sit an imbecile in a seat of authority for them to give it back to them next week. You understand?
Yes.
And emotions play no part in this. You understand? And so we got to get real, and our people are going to have to really learn some foundation information. Sincerely. You know what I mean? And really apply themselves.
Yes.
Meanwhile, keep in mind that, as you would say, cycles. We measure time by cycle ages. However, because things are measured by time, as they may call it, time is not waiting. You understand? And so, irregardless of the positions people may or may not take, those things are falling apart.
Yes.
And so you're going to be forced to take responsibility. It's better that you do it willingly. You understand? Because things are going to be falling apart around you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the best thing for us to do is to start learning some of the rules. And so I always say, one of the best ways to free people is to teach them some of the secrets of the priesthood. Because that's what allowed them to have power over you, is that they kept a part of your Kabbalistic knowledge from you, and then some parts that they did give, they codified and sold it. And most people didn't know what they got anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And if they figured out, they couldn't tell anyway.
Right.
You understand? But the real deal is, it's your estate. And they've been running your estate, and you haven't been running your estate, so they've been accusing you of abandoning your estate, and therefore remaining in the focal position under feudal law, and you're thinking they're operating under a colonial constitution, and they're operating under feudal law. And so you keep getting injured. Dang, how come we keep getting injured? They're racist. That's the argument they give you. And this is really what's happening to you.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So once you understand this, it's not debatable. You understand what's up. So, so all your comprehensions, so when you're talking to them, right? And when you're communicating with them, you're always, this is in the back of your head. With you knowing that this is what's in the back of their head. With the purpose of hiding this.
Right.
But this is like a shadow government covering this up. And so when people approach it, they think they're dealing with this when they're really dealing with that. There was a two-face.
Yes.
You understand? So that judge is really a magi. There's nothing wrong with magi. They're magicians. You know what I'm saying? They're magi's pretending to be legitimate, sanctioned judges. Right? So the mind of the people is that they're Article 3 sanctioned,
Right.
when actually they're working against Article 3 as deputy knights for the popes of Rome under the Treaty of Rome. With the help of their Negro leader guys that they assign in the communities who are given a little bit of this knowledge under masonry. You understand?
Yes.
And so I'm telling you this because so that you know how things work. If you know how things work, you can know how to unwork them. You know, when you know what you're fighting, you don't reject it, you put it in its proper perspective.
Right.
Because it's your stuff. He says they're taking advantage of you, not knowing your own stuff. You see? And so we have been, are we cool? Testing, testing, testing. And so we've been operating under the dogma, and the dogma is where the feminine principle is removed, right? And we're looking at the personifications only in a personified form. And so, like say, we're thinking Prophet Muhammad. We're thinking Prophet Muhammad in the East as a man.
Right.
You understand, 1700 years ago type thing. Whereas those who know are looking at the northern and the southern hemisphere of the universe. You understand?
Yes.
Yet as a personality is Prophet Muhammad. You understand? And so, whereas the masses are looking at Jesus as the Son of God walking around, blessing everybody, wiping people's feet and everything, they're looking at the sun, S-U-N, and its transits in the transits of the planet around the sun, and they're cause and effect energies, etc. And that is Yeshua. You see? And the personalities, and so the disciples, you understand it, the disciples, for the masses who don't understand, the masters are looking at the 12 constellations that we've traveled. You see?
Yes.
And so for the masses, they're looking at the deacons in the church. And for them, they're looking at every 10 degrees of the 3 houses in every quadrant of the zodiac, which are the deaconess. You see? So once you understand these things, that gives you a foundation of how to look at these things differently from a master degree versus the dogmatic degree. So as you can see, the dogmatic degree never can operate this science because they're caught in personalities. You see? And this is where you get, like, say, the symbol. You get a symbol of 3 lights. And the first light is faith. The first light is belief. Second light is faith. Third light is fruition. The reflection, neophyte, scholar, master. And so the masters aren't even aware of 4 of those degrees. They just know belief and faith. Don't even know there's other degrees that even exist because the priesthood keeps it from them. Why? Because once they become high priests, they don't need the priesthood no more. You understand? Now you understand where they got upset with Yahshua for schooling the common people?
Yes.
If you get the point? You know, we're bringing the light to the common people, so the priesthood and the Romans get together, murder the prophets, then they blame it on the devil. Everybody looking for the devil, looking to kick the devil's butt is actually the priesthood.
Exactly.
Even to this day. See how that works?
Yes.
See, but once you understand that the priesthood are the demons, right? You don't get angry, you just understand what it is. And so when they're trying to play with you, you already know the deal, because you're going, yeah. That's how you do it. Called navigation, isn't it? Huh? See, so when you're looking at that checkerboard, right? You got the light and the dark cubits, right? Right? That's the upper world and the underworld. You see, they always struggle. You see, yet it's also the measurement of the earth. You understand what I'm saying? So you're supposed to learn how to start navigating without mystery, if you get the point. That's the point, without mystery. And that's what the Raleigh came for. Once you understand that, you'll look at this, everything that he did, totally different. But if you don't look at it properly, you'll start worshiping him like another religious figure or something like that, which is improper. Which is not why he came. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sister Antoinette, working on your stuff. Yeah, not ready today, but working on the stuff. Found your papers.
Not a day.
Found stuff.